I've just finished my third and final month of my product design internship with UX Cabin, and I wanted to tell you guys all about it. Hi everybody! Welcome back. As you know, my name's Karen and I am a product design intern trying to break into the world of UX design. So essentially this month was all about personal projects. Each intern had to choose their own real-world issue that they wanted to solve, and then we essentially had to go through the entire design process alone, and then at the end of the 4 weeks, we got to do a case study presentation in front of the company and got critiqued and got our presentations as well as our product reviewed by a bunch of designers, which was amazing. It was also terrifying. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, definitely stay tuned. So for me, I decided to tackle the topic of intergenerational history and culture. And so essentially what that is the passing down of knowledge, information, and familial history amongst first and second generation immigrants. If you are the child of an immigrant living in, say Canada or the US, I'm sure you can relate to me, which is that a lot of us don't know a lot about our ethnic culture. We know a lot about our Canadian and American culture, but we don't know a lot about where our parents came from, their culture, and all of that history. And so I wanted to look into this to see if it was a real world problem or if it was just a Karen thing. To summarize, basically what I had to do over the 4 weeks was, first I had to develop a research plan.
There's an introduction, problem statement, a competitive analysis down here. I wrote the objectives of the research, so what I wanted to achieve from my interviews and surveys. I figured out the characteristics I wanted in my participants. I wrote my methodology out, and then I created my interview guide and I put my resources at the bottom.
I also had to conduct secondary research, so looking into the problem.
Here's just a collection of the resources that I looked at and all of the papers that I read through to create my foundation for my research.
And then I had to actually conduct primary research, which is interviews and surveys. So with that, you have to create your interview script, you have to line up a bunch of participants to actually talk to, you need to conduct the actual interviews, and then after that you have to create surveys, issue them out, and once you've actually done all of the research, then comes the process of figuring out what everything means. You have to look at important quotes. You need to do some empathy mapping or affinity mapping to try and figure out what the actual takeaways and themes are from the research. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I'll do a quick little fast forward walkthrough.
Just to give you a brief overview of what I did to sort through my research, I took all of the notes from my interviews and I essentially put them on these stickies that you see on the left. Each participant is represented by a different color, and I put their quotes and some of the notes from their interviews here. And then in the next stage, I copy and pasted them here, and then I started moving things around and grouping them together, things that were similar or things that were major outliers, and then I labeled the groups. The next stage was I figured out which groupings I thought were the most important or the most essential to my research, and that's represented by these hearts over here. And that is what I used to determine what my major themes and takeaways were. And it might be confusing because you see I have 3 groups here, but it's because I have my first generation user group, my second generation user group, and then this was the data I collected from my surveys. I don't think that people tend to look at their surveys in the way that I did, but I had to just because I had 2 user groups to look at, and it was really hard to figure out what everything meant when the data wasn't side by side, which is why I did it visually like this. It's just easier for me to look at this way, and then I created notes and did the same thing with the hearts, figuring out what was the most important, and that's how I got my themes and takeaways.
And of course, you have to create your final problem statement, figure out who your personas are going to be for your design, and then you could actually start to dive into the actual design process. So doing crazy eights, iterating on designs, doing usability testing on your designs. So I actually decided to do usability testing on my low fidelity prototypes just because I didn't have a lot of time and I didn't want to spend ages making a mid fidelity or high fidelity prototype just to test it, just to redo it. So I did a low fidelity usability test, which I will show you as well.
Here's a look at one of my personas. This is for my second generation immigrant user group. I just had, a photo, general information here, a story bio at the bottom, and a big quote at the top. I did some crazy 8 drawings. I chose the style that I liked the most, and then drew out some user flows. And here is a preview of my usability testing frames.
After that, I had to try and create my own design system, figure out my typography and color scheme, and then try to do the high fidelity prototypes.
I'll show you some of the screens. So here I have my empty state screen. It's for people who are recording their own personal stories, and it says, no stories yet, there are no stories in your library, record your first entry now. And you're supposed to click start, and you would be shown a screen that looks like this. What is your favorite childhood memory? And you could click the record button to start telling your story. Now there are some things that I need to change for my next round of iterations, one of them being the main home screen where you can access all of the question prompts and requests and uploads and everything like that, because I was given some feedback that my hierarchy is a little off and that I should try and make things look a little less heavy. So that's what I'm going to try to do, but I did want to show you what I did originally make, and it looked something like this. Yeah, that's pretty much my project. I don't want to show everything because I do have a lot of changes that I want to make, and I would rather show you guys what it looks like once it's improved.
Once I finished my high fidelity prototypes, I had to go through the process of figuring out how to present all of the information, because I knew that I had to do a case study presentation to a bunch of designers, which was very, very daunting. But yeah, so the internship was an amazing experience. I learned so much and I grew so much, and I feel very, very blessed to have had this opportunity to learn and to grow and to be mentored by amazing designers and to be critiqued in a very constructive, beautiful way. Although the internship has technically come to a close, I do have some good news to share. I was offered an extension. No, not a job. That would have been too easy. But I was offered an extension on my internship, and I'm really, really excited for this portion of the internship experience because I'll have the chance to work with the senior designers on their actual client projects and assist them on those things. And that is amazing! And I'm so excited and pumped. I think it'll be super fun, and I really think that I will learn a lot. Yay for Karen! I do know that a bunch of you guys have been asking me about the internship and if they're going to have another round and when applications for that's going to be. So I don't know, but I do know that the internship tends to run towards the end of the calendar year. So if you are trying to keep your eye out for it, I would pay attention in August. Because they tend to run the internship through like fall winter. I'm sorry that it's not sooner. I wish I had better news. Set that reminder in your calendar to look into UX Cabin to see if they're offering more internships, and when they do, please do apply. I applied kind of on a whim. The internship wasn't even on my radar. Somebody had just shared it with me probably a few days before the due date, and I just decided to give it a shot, and I got it. So if I can get it, you guys can totally get it too. I know that we tend to wallow in self-doubt sometimes, especially as newly transitioning designers, and we think like, oh, I can't apply to that, I'm not ready yet, or I can't apply to that, there's too many requirements, or whatever. I really hope that you guys really try to put yourselves out there when you have the chance, because you don't really grow that much just from reading books and watching videos. I grew the most in the last 3 months. If I look back on the last 6-7 months of learning, I definitely grew the most in the last 3. So I encourage you to find ways to be active in the community and to get your work critiqued, because that's the only way that you're truly gonna get better. They often say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So when that opportunity comes, go for it. All right, guys, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. I will see you next time. Bye.